I was watching a video from my brother DCB, and shout out to everybody in the LDBC. But I was watching this video, a good video about the Danny Jacobs versus GGG fight, and I think DCB was breaking down the fact that this fight should have a little more buzz about the fight. It doesn't really seem to have much buzz about it, and I just wanted to sort of piggyback on that video because it's quite a simple fact why the fight doesn't really have much of a buzz, why there's much of an interest about the fight, and it's really quite simple. GGG fans have killed any prospect of this fight ever being a good fight. His fucking fans actually killed this a long time ago. By co-signing on the fuckery that is GGG's career. People were asking 3-4 years ago, questioning the fact that GGG hadn't actually fought any top elite fighters. And, you had all these people sort of trying to defend this shit, saying, oh, GGG, when GGG is saying shit about he wants to fight people from, 154 to 168. And at the same time, he starts telling people that, oh, everybody's ducking him. Which is a load of bullshit. So people called him out on that shit, saying, well, why don't you, your resume shows that you're not actually fighting top elite fighters or fighters of any sort of decent quality, for that matter. Why aren't you actually, pushing for the top fights? Making a name for yourself. I mean, people are not, if you're so adamant of fighting people from all, that wider range, why don't you fight, the top echelon fighters? Why are you always fighting sort of, substandard fights? And it's quite simple. You had all these so-called hanger-on fans who were defending the shit. People were rightly asking, GGG needs to, fight some, put some, proper quality in his on his resume. It's no point in saying that you're this top elite fighter and you're not fighting any top quality fights. But his fans kept on defending it and defending it and defending it. So effectively just killed any sort of momentum that GGG would have had if he actually started to, if his so-called defenders and fans actually pushed him to actually, fight quality fights. He would have, the buzz would have been big. He would have had a much more, people would have been more palatable to actually, take GGG under their wing and say, oh, this guy's actually trying to fight somebody. He's actually pushing to actually have some decent fights. And people would have actually supported him for that. But no, he didn't do that. He let his management company, hoodwink a load of people, trying to mask the fact that he wasn't, taking any quality fights and giving you this sort of illusion that he was a top quality fighter. The guy, is really high in age, 36 years old, not fighting any top quality fights. And then all of a sudden, because people are just so bored, that's the, more effective word. People are so bored of the fact that, he wasn't fighting any quality fights, sort of subpar, substandard fights. The lost and went. And all of a sudden now, at this point in time, he picks, he decides, oh yeah, I want to go and start fighting Danny Jacobs. The luster's gone. This fight should be, even 3-4 years ago, this should be like, people should be buzzing about this fight 3 or 4 years ago. If GGG had pushed to actually fight somebody of that kind of caliber 3 or 4 years ago. And the guy's 36 years old. People are like, what have you been doing all your career? Really, basically, now you want to start fighting, it's too late. People are like, the luster is just not there. It's simple because of his fans, his people, those people who, just talked a load of bullshit for years. Now all wondering because nobody gives a shit. In all honesty, nobody cares. Gigi is like, well, his career is practically over. So you're fighting Danny Jacobs now. Well, whoopie-doo. You should have fought him 3 or 4 years ago. Or somebody of that sort of caliber 3 or 4 years ago, not right now. And that's the main reason. People are just not really interested. GGG is not really... There's no interest there would have been if he actually pushed to actually had more decent fights on his resume. He would have, the buzz would have been big, rather than feeding the bullshit. It is what it is. But you have all these fanboys and people who sit on their fucking sofas spewing a load of garbage, trying to pretend that GGG's the reason why people are not really interested in GGG is because of skin color. When and people and these little cockroaches who gather around idiots like that who will lap that shit up. Whereas the reality is the fact that if his fans had actually pushed him to actually fight some decent fights, then he would have had a lot more of a buzz. So GGG, in my opinion, has just himself to blame for being a fraud, which is what I said ages ago. The biggest fraud in boxing, and now people don't really care. So I mean, that's the way it is. So what? GGG is fighting Danny Jacobs. So what? Whoopee. It is what it is. Anyways, that's just my 2 cents on the situation. So, fuck GGG fans. Peace.